dati swapadantikam vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyareva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 6, Text 10. Word to word meaning. Yena, by which pseudo-religious system, Havava, certainly, Kalo, in this age of Kali, Manuja Apasadha, the most condemned men, Devamaya Mohita, bewildered by the external energy or illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swavidhina Yoga, Shocha Charita Vihina, without character, cleanliness, and the rules and regulations given according to one's own duty in life. Deva Hilanani, negligent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Apavratani, impious vows. Nija Nija Ichaya, by their own desires. Granana, accepting. Asnana Anachamana, Ashochakesha, Alunchana Adini, concocted religious principles such as no bathing, no washing of the mouth, being unclean, and plucking out the hair. Kalina, by the age of Kali. Adharma Bahulena, with an abundance of irreligion. Upahata Diya, whose pure consciousness is destroyed. Brahma Brahmana, Jagya Purusha, Loka Vidushaka, blasphemous toward the Vedas, the strict brahmanas, ritualistic ceremonies such as sacrifice, and toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the devotees. Prayena, almost entirely, Bhavishyanti, will become. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. People who are the lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord will give up the original Varnashram Dharma and its rules and regulations. They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshipping the Lord. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they will accept nonsensical principles. Not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly, they will always remain unclean, and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems, Consequently, these people will naturally derive Vedic authority, the followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. Purport. Presently, the hippies in the Western countries fit this description. They are irresponsible and unregulated. They do not bathe, and they derive standard Vedic knowledge. They concoct knowledge. They concoct styles and religions. There are many hippie groups at the present moment, but they all originated from King Arhat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rishabdev, who was situated on the Paramahamsa stage. King Arhat did not care for the fact that although Lord Rishabdev acted like a madman, his stool and urine were nonetheless aromatic, so much so that they nicely scented the countryside for miles around. The followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of Mayavad philosophy, because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people do not respect the real followers of Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmanas, nor do they have respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. Due to the influence of this age of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Can someone hand me the Bhagavad Gita? One. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Srimad Bhagavatam mentions the ill effects of imitating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Paramahamsa's personalities who are great souls, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. Naitat samacharich jatu manasapi hi anishwaraha vinashati acharamodhya yata rudra abdijam visham. So the context of this verse is Shukadeva Goswami has just described about the rasa dance. And so Parikshit Maharaj, being a great devotee, could understand that many people would misunderstand the description. So he inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, how is it possible that Krishna could have been dancing with other people's wives and in this way performing sinful activity? So Shukadeva Goswami wanted to point out what is the position of those who are controllers of the universe. So he speaks this verse that one should not naitatsama jatu. So that means one should not imitate the activities of great personalities, even in one's mind. Manasapi means manasapi. Even in one's mind, if one is anishwara. Anishwara means one who is not a controller of the universe, or one who is not a controller. No one is a controller in the material world. We're all under the control of the modes of material nature. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Pakritihi kriyamanani gunai sarvasha, what is that? Karmani sarvashaha. Ahankarava vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. So Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that we're simply thinking we are controllers due to the influence of false ego. But actually we're under the control of the modes of material nature. So if you're under the modes of material nature, then you're called anishwara. So if you're anishwara, you're not a controller, then you should not imitate the activities of great personalities even within your mind. If someone foolishly does that, vinashati acharam modyad. Modya means if foolishly he imitates these activities of great personalities, then certainly he will be destroyed. And then an example is given, yata rudro abdijam visham. Just like if one imitates Shiva in drinking ocean of poison, then certainly you will be killed. Then another verse. Ishwaranam vachasatyam tatayava charitam kvachit tesham yat swavacho yuktam buddhimams tat samacharet. So here it mentions that the words of those who are actually controllers of the universe, Ishwaras, their words are always true. Ishwaranam vacha satyam. Whatever they speak is truth, absolute truth. And to be truthful means to speak whatever the authorities or Ishwaras have spoken. That is called truthfulness. If you speak something that is not backed up by Shastra, or not backed up by the Mahajans, Mahajana ye kahe se satyamani. If we speak something that is different from them, then you're speaking something that is illusory. And in that way you perform violence. So those who are Ishwaranam Vachasatyam, whatever the Ishwaras speak, it is truth. Tataiva acharitam kuchit. And whatever example they set that follows their words, that is exemplary. That means to say that they might perform activities that aren't always in line with their words. Because Krishna, as Krishna mentions in this section of Gita I'm reading, he mentions how he also follows prescribed duties because he wants to educate the world on the importance of prescribed duties, and Krishna wants to protect the prestige of those principles. We think, oh, that is just Varnashram Dharma. We are above it. But Krishna himself wants to protect the prestige of those principles, so therefore he applies those principles himself to set up example, as did Lord Rishabhdev. But also, Krishna wants to show that he's God sometimes, that I'm God, and I'm extraordinary personality. So he'll do things like rasa dance. And we were mentioning this came up yesterday at Northwestern. But many times scholars, they find the rasa dance to be kind of repulsive or contemptible. But they don't realize that the rasa dance is actually evidence for Krishna as God. Because when he performed rasa dance, he was dancing with millions of gopis. Who can do? One gopi would be completely exhausting. He was dancing with millions of gopis. And before Rasa Leela, he lifted Govardhan Hill. So Krishna wants to show himself as God sometimes. So therefore, he may also do some activities that don't follow what he speaks. So whatever great personalities speak, it is always true. And whatever actions they perform which follows their speech, that is exemplary, which means that we should follow as an example. Whatever example they set up which is in line with what they speak, then we should accept that as the example to be followed by us, because their words are always true. Tesham yat swavacho yuktam buddhimams tat samarcharet. So if you're intelligent, buddhimams, if you're intelligent, then you will follow the activities of... If you're intelligent, then when there's a dilemma between what great persons have done and what great persons speak, then you should follow what great persons speak and not do what they do. Because if you do what they do, imitating them, when you're not a controller, then the path of destruction is wide open. Definitely you will degrade to hell. So, these are very important verses to know. Because the examples of great souls may be very inspiring, but we have to see what they are speaking to us. We cannot always do what they do. Actually, generally, you cannot do what they are doing. That is not possible without losing your consciousness, without degrading your consciousness. But whatever they speak is actually meant for the upliftment of the fallen conditioned souls, like us. So those of us, if we're intelligent, we will follow what they speak. And seeing their example as extraordinary, worthy of our worship, we will not try to imitate their activities. Imitation means to try to follow the activities without the inner substance of these great personalities. And the inner substance is 100% Krishna conscious, 100% Krishna conscious. If you're even 1% less than that and you try to imitate, you'll become degraded. So it is important to understand that that we should not to imitate. That means not to adopt the activities of great persons without the inner substance. To get the inner substance step by step, we follow what they speak. So King Arhat, the main point that Prabhupada is bringing out here, is that he imitated the activities of Lord Rishabdev. And so in this way, he became degraded. And he accepted all types of nonsensical principles, such as not bathing. It says not bathing 3 times a day, and then it says not bathing regularly, and then not bathing at all. And other things like growing out the hair and then pulling it out. Jitendra was a little bewildered by this yesterday. He mentioned that. He said that seems like a mentally deranged person. And the fact of the matter is, that is correct. Because of imitation, you become deranged, actually. That is the nature of speculation. You become crazy. And in the modern society, here is also mentioned, everyone is speculating about religious principles, about what is spiritual. And so many of them come to the conclusion that they're God, and they don't follow any type of authority. In fact, they don't know who is an authority and who is not an authority. This is the difficulty in Kali Yuga. Who to follow, who not to follow, no one knows. And you're in a room and someone is speaking anything, any nonsense thing they speak, and then someone else glorifies them for that, and then they add some nonsense to it, and then someone glorifies them and they add some nonsense. And that way, as a observer, you become just bewildered. What is going on? What is happening? Who to accept, who not to accept? You cannot understand. You cannot tell. So in this way, not being able to understand who's an authority, who to follow, then they become guided by their own minds. Because then it seems like it's a free-for-all. Like, okay, that's just one opinion, and there are so many other opinions, and I have my own opinion also. So let me just follow my own opinion. Just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in certain places, he'll speak something, he said, this is my opinion. So they'll say, even Krishna is saying this is his opinion. So why I should follow Krishna's opinion? I'll follow my own opinion. But there's a difference between you and Krishna. Krishna is God, so whatever opinion he has is absolute truth. And whatever opinion you have is sheer nonsense and at least degradation. But no one thinks like that. So that now understanding who's an authority, a person is without guidance in his life. So then he's forced to follow his own mind. And he becomes degraded. And he takes inspiration from various histories. He looks at people's examples and so on, and tries to take inspiration from that. I'll take a little bit from here, take a little bit from there, take a little bit from there. In fact, on a morning walk, Prabhupada was describing like that. The disciples were saying, Prabhupada, they say you should not follow any one authority. You should follow your own ways, your own mind, and so on. So Prabhupada said, that means I have to follow him because he's suggesting to me to do that. He himself is teaching that I should do whatever I want. So that means I am following him. So Prabhupada kind of, clarifies that point. And then he said, well, they say you can take from different people. You should not absolutely surrender to any authority. You can just take from different people and then combine it together and follow your own way. And then to that, Prabhupada said, well, if I knew what was the best way, why would I have to take from many people? Why would I have to investigate so many things and try to find out what is best if I actually knew what was best for me? So in this way, one is actually just simply bewildered, and one degrades down to the motive, degrades oneself due to ignorance. So one has to understand who is an authority and who is not an authority. And after understanding who is an authority, we have to submit ourselves to their instructions. That is what it means to be a real disciple. One has to submit to the instructions of the authority. And you cannot imitate the activities of the authority. You can take inspiration from their activities and by taking inspiration from their activities, feel the need to subordinate yourself to such personalities. Because oftentimes we don't subordinate ourselves because we think, who are they anyway? They're not so great after all. Why should I follow them? In order to someone to be worthy of following, then we want to see something very extraordinary. Otherwise, we think why we should follow them. They're not very extraordinary. Why I should follow? So the acharyas have done things that are very extraordinary. That shows that their position is certainly very exalted. And that way we can take inspiration from their exalted activities to subordinate ourselves to their instructions, to place faith that whatever they're speaking is certainly beneficial for us. But if one tries to imitate the activities of great souls without having the inner substance that these great personalities have, which means 10% Krishna consciousness, 100%, not have baked Krishna consciousness and on the way to full Krishna consciousness, but actually 100% Krishna conscious. You imitate that, then you do damage to yourself. Of course, you go down to hell. And also, in the case here that's being mentioned by King Arhat, you do violence to the whole world, especially if you're in a leadership position. Because everyone will follow that, because people are already naturally inclined towards irreligiosity. So now you've just done some foolish activity, and people are inclined to follow foolishness. Andanya tandar upaniyamanas, the blind leading the blind. They're inclined to do that. So by doing such activities, you become doubly punished for misleading others on the path of degradation. So the basic idea here is don't imitate, but rather to follow the authorities. Mahajana ye kahesi satyamani. Whatever the authorities say, that is absolute truth. We accept it as true. And whatever they do, that may be true or it may not be true for us. It may be true or it may not be true for us. But whatever they say is certainly true for us. And therefore we should follow what they say. That is what it means to be a follower of the Krishna consciousness movement. So that's it. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Having too much mentoring and just draining our mentors with, Prabhu, it was suggested that I take rest around this time and rise around this time. Last night I was chanting, and I could have just kept chanting, and Prabhupada says this is 24-hour engagement, and I have full faith that if I would have kept chanting, I would have been able to rise early. But I thought, well, is the instruction more important to take rest? So how do we ever grow and not try to necessarily, we can see, okay, Mahajan, he would just continue to chant right now. You see, so there's a delicate balance. So there's this point where it's like, that they want us to grow. And at the same time, that instruction might have been applicable to an earlier stage of development. So I'm asking.
Well, in short, Srila Prabhupada mentions that unless one gets an instruction to do like that, then he should just follow the basic routine that has been given by everyone else. Now, Prabhupada specifically mentions that. I think I even read it to you the other day. Unless Lord Chaitanya gives power of attorney an instruction to do like that, then one does not do. He follows the basic routine. Like that. Growing in Krishna consciousness doesn't just mean chanting more rounds, if that's what you're thinking. It's not a quantitative growth, but it's subordination to the personality of Godhead. Absolute subordination to the personality of Godhead. That is the indication of purity. And in order to help us gain that mentality, then the Guru is there. And then subordinating ourselves to his instructions to help us cultivate that mentality. Otherwise, you can chant a lot of rounds also, like Ram Das Vishwas was chanting throughout the day and night, and Mahaprabhu did not appreciate. And so many others, actually. So many others we've mentioned time and time again. So if you want to grow according to your own concocted method, then you do as you like, as the mind is telling. And if we really want to grow in terms of the service mentality, then we subordinate ourselves to whatever instructions we... And now you got to follow that. It's not like I followed it for 1 month, now I'm ready for the next thing. Which is what you tend to do oftentimes. I've already followed for a whole 2 months. But what about following years and years together, which is the real program? Sometimes when you see older devotees, they look a little wore out. And they look like not so enthusiastic, and you feel kind of afraid, is that going to happen to me when I become Krishna conscious? And then the newbies look all fired up, like they're situated in pure devotional service and so on. But the reality is that the older devotees, how much they've been dedicated to the following, subordinating themselves, so much purity is there to be doing this day in and day out for years and years and years together. And we're just new kids on the block, and we got a little bit of inspiration, and we're thinking we're exalted personalities, not considering the long haul of Krishna consciousness. So it's going to take a lot more than a couple of months of following to be on an exalted platform. And that's my understanding. And until we really subordinate ourselves to such an authority, following for years together, it's going to take years of work. Then you have your mind there to instruct you so many things. Oh, I think I'm ready for advancement now. I'm ready to grow now. I'm going to chant throughout the day and night, and then during japa period sleep, or during class sleeping. Or you're able to maybe maintain for 1 or 2 days, and then the third day, not able to get up, missing the whole morning program, and then saying, I don't know what happened, I think Krishna retracted his mercy. No, he didn't retract his mercy. You foolishly stayed up for 3 or 4 days in a row without getting sufficient rest, and now the body can't take it. No, but I was doing for so many days I was doing. And then, now I'm not able to do. Common sense, because the body can't take it. No, I think my body can take it. I think Krishna retracted his mercy. Mental speculation. So rather than speculate, one should dedicate his energies to the basic program for growth and gain the maturity, the depth of realization, and actual taste. Don't look for a cheap way out. Anyone else wants to acquire something?
One of the key point to his question is that, Goswamis, there is a nidra hara vihara kadi vijito satyantadina chajo, means they had conquered the sleep and food intake, So that is a key point. That means if you can control your prasadam, food, and can control your sleep, you can also elevate to that level. But for that also you need special mercy. Like, today I was reading that there are 2 types of devotees. One is sadhana siddha and krupa siddha. Krupa siddha is very far better than that. Unless you have krupa, means mercy of Guru and Krishna, you cannot. By own endeavor, you cannot.
Yes. Of course, we have to know that Kripa Siddha, Srila Prabhupada gives the example, it's like getting an honorary degree. So one should not be, I got the Kripa, I have the Kripa, now I can stay up throughout the whole night and chant. That is foolishness. It is an honorary degree. Honorary degree, you know what is honorary degree? Honorary degree means you didn't go to school, and they appreciated your knowledge so much they just gave you a degree anyway. Even if you didn't go, you didn't do anything, here's a degree to you. Now how many of you are expecting to get an honorary degree without actually going through the school work? So sadhana siddha is the regular path, and kripa siddha is a very rare thing, except during Gaur Lila. During Gaur Lila, kripa siddha was very much prominent. Anyone who would just see Mahaprabhu would get the goal of life. But as all our acharyas have taught, the path of sadhana is the regular method. We should not take an exception to the rule to be the rule. Right? Kripa Siddha is an exception to the rule. But the rule is actually the process of sadhana bhakti. So one should not accept an exception to the rule to be the actual rule, to be meditated upon. And if one does that, then he can go down. He'll certainly be degraded. That's a fact. One's anarthas will overtake them. Just like nowadays, so many persons in India who have their connection, so-called connection with Gaudiya Sampradaya, they also have this idea That's just chant, and they don't even like to hear Bhagavatam. They think that is also fruitive activity. They think studying the literature, they think writing literatures is fruitive activity. They think it's materialistic. They even criticize our Goswamis for writing so many literatures, saying that it was itself fruitive activity. And they cannot stop illicit sex. Chanting, but cannot give up illicit sex. And they give justification that, that is as natural as passing urine and stool. That is their understanding. So in this way, go to hell. Definitely go down. Because they're not following the methodology as given by Mahaprabhu himself for the benefit of the conditioned souls. Anyway, until someone really sees it, the necessity to really subordinate himself to the spiritual master, we can hardly think that there's going to be much substantial progress. It'll just be simply imaginative speculation going on. And Shruti Shmiti Puranadi Pantaratra Vidin Vina Akainti Ki Hare Bhakti Upatayava Kalpate. It may look like pure bhakti. No pure bhakti. Simply degradation. Because it doesn't follow Shruti, doesn't follow Shmriti, doesn't consider the Pancharatra. He thinks, I'm ready for Bhagavat Marg. What is this Pancharatra Vidhi? He thinks in this way. I'm ready for Bhagavat Marg. What is this Pancharatra Vidhi? Shruti, Shmriti, Pancharatra is coming up. If it is without following that regulation, we're not even fit to be initiated. Kali Yuga, we're not even fit to be disciples. No one here in this room is fit to be a disciple. We are extremely fallen. And thanks to the Pancharatra Vidhi, we can be initiated into the path of devotional service. And one is thinking, what do I need with the Pancharatra Vidhi? I'm Bhagavat Marg, simply surrender to Krishna, and then doing illicit sex. So if we want to follow the easy path, we follow the path given by the acharyas. That is like a path already made in the forest. Forest is there, and they have like a path that is already made in the forest. So if you stay on the path, you easily walk through the forest. But if you think, I will come up with my own path, I think there's a shortcut, and you go inside the forest, then you get bewildered. I don't know how many of you ever walked through a forest before, but it gets very bewildering. Because as you walk through the forest, you forget which direction you're going, and you start looking around, I think it was this way. You become bewildered, and then the sun sets, finished. Then you completely finished, lost. But if you just stay on the marked path, then very easily you walk through the forest. So material life is compared to a forest. It's compared, and that's coming up, in fact, the forest of material enjoyment. And the path given by the Mahajans is the easy path through the forest, no difficulty. There's a shloka like that from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I forget it. So anyway, if we don't want to subordinate ourselves, that's fine. Do as you like. But the result of that, nasasiddhim avapnoti, nasukam naparam gatim. No happiness, no perfection, no back home, back to Godhead. Are there any other questions? No. Okay, Acharya Initiative.
Yeah, thank you. I think this point was mentioned, but it wasn't very much resolved that these pastimes of Lord Rishabhdev taking place in the dynasty of King Priyavrata, I'm not sure what yuga that was. In the commentaries that then King Arhat, all of these Mayavadi groups are offshoots of King Arhat because he imitated. Sure. So is that like some gap, like yuga gaps there or something?
I don't know if investigated. I cannot say. I didn't look it up before coming. I'll look it up.
Prabhu, can you just rephrase it or refresh this point that we cannot take the activity of the Mahajan, but we can put the faith on what they are speaking. So we can take the activity to subordinate, to make ourselves subordinate to those people. So
no, one may take inspiration from their life, like the life of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, etc. You may take inspiration from their life to give one confidence to subordinate oneself to their instruction. Because generally, we don't want to follow someone unless they do something really extraordinary, right? Just like now, someone comes and tells us something, we say, who are you? Why should I follow you? And they say, well, I'm your superior. What is your knowledge, though? Immediately they laugh at you, Well, why should I follow you, Well, I've been in the movement 10 years. That's okay, but that doesn't mean you're more advanced than me, because advancement depends on strength of knowledge. They start arguing like that. But then when you see these great personalities, obviously you feel like there's no question of their exalted position. So then, taking inspiration from that, you may feel it easy to subordinate yourself to whatever they have spoken, like that. And in that way, make progress by following what they speak. That's what I was mentioning. So you see Srila Prabhupada's life is completely extraordinary. So obviously not an ordinary personality. That gives one confidence to subordinate oneself to what he's speaking. But if you try to imitate, then without the inner substance, then definitely you will go down. Definitely. Does that answer your thing? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.